Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I have a little bit of a challenge for you. I've been doing a landscape unit for any of my students in grade 8. So we've been going through a whole bunch of series of exercises. This particular one is to incorporate some sort of bridge in your landscape painting. For this one, it's a rope bridge with wooden slats going from one pillar to the next. So it's a little bit of a fantasy type idea. It doesn't always have to be realistic for a landscape painting, and sometimes it makes it a little bit more interesting if you try to incorporate some sort of fantasy oriented place, something that you'd find in, say, a Star Wars or a Lord of the Rings or a Indiana Jones type idea. I did the pencil outline first with a Sharpie, really thin Sharpie outline, and so I've been really enjoying just doing an ink and wash for landscapes, and it helps it out. So after that, I put in the sky first, really nice pale blue, and feel free to paint over anything in the landscape. If you put in your base layers and just work your way from light to dark, you could pretty much paint over anything. And in some cases, the medium light actually, medium paint on top of light paint really does affect the color nicely, and it creates a really nice edge to all of your outlines. And the lighter colors below the thicker colors or the darker colors, they do affect each other, especially in watercolor. So if you want to have a nice little blue tinge to your, say, stone, do it in this manner. It is always very important to put the lights colors on first, okay, especially for watercolor. And you build darker and darker and darker as you put on maybe 2, you could even put 3, maybe even 4 layers of paint on top, because we are dealing with stone and trees and anything in nature. The colors really do need to have a variety of thicknesses and a variety of textures. It makes everything stand out a little bit more, makes it a little bit more three-dimensional, and it creates a really nice natural environment. Because we all know stone, wood, trees, plants are made up of a variety of colors. So building from light to dark is the key when doing some sort of landscape painting, such as this one. Never make your sky too dark, or you're going to have to build up your, say, stone or your cliffs even darker. So be careful of that. And anything in the background should appear to be a little bit lighter than anything in the foreground. And to focus on, say, the bridge, it is in perspective, and obviously whatever's closest to the viewer is bigger, and if it goes further and further into the background, it will appear to be smaller. And in this case, the bridge is a little bit higher up from the horizon line to appear that it's going further and further out into the distance. So you're always working a little bit higher on the horizon line as you get further and further away. So lower at the bottom of your page and then higher at the top of your page. So that's a fantastic little lesson in terms of trying to do a perspective drawing. The next one is the really crazy tree that is in the foreground. Really practice your trees. You could really get bogged down in tree branches and trying to make it as proportional as possible. Obviously, the lower down on the trunk, the thickest part of the tree it is. I have a few roots sticking out of the ground, and then as it gets taller and taller and taller and longer and longer and longer, the branches get thinner and thinner and thinner to a point where it's maybe just as thick as your pencil. or your Sharpie is. Try to texture it up a little bit to make it look like it's round. All trees, for the most part at least, have round bases and round branches. This particular one does not have any leaves, so it's a little bit more creepy, a little bit more dead. So in some cases it's easier to draw that way. But as your tree gets taller and taller and taller, make sure the branches are in proportion and they get thinner and thinner and thinner as they get taller and taller and taller. In some cases, a lot of my students forget that rule, and their trees look a little bit disproportional. After that, it's all about light and shadow. Wait for your first layer to dry before you put your thicker paint on. So in terms of watercolor, rule of thumb, more water, a lesser and cooler color, and more paint, less water for something darker. And obviously you can layer your paints that much better when it comes to stuff like that. And then when you're looking at, say, picking the colors for your tree versus picking a color for your rock, have a variety of colors. Have them stand out from one another. I would always probably, at least, make the tree a little bit darker than, say, the stone or the rock. And obviously the tree is in foreground, so I would make the paint colors a little bit darker than the rest of your background. So it makes it look like it's popping out a little bit more, because we all know that colors are a little bit richer, a little bit darker in the foreground than they are in the background. And that'll create that, really good illusion of the foreground, middle ground, and background when you're doing a landscape painting. So right here, just working on my branches. Always keep in mind, have a variety of different size brushes. I have a really nice paintbrush that I can use just the tip of for my really, really small details. And then bigger ones, you just put more pressure and use the side of the brush for the thicker paint strokes. But having a square brush to a pointy brush and to a really, really, really small brush for the small details, have that on hand. It'll make your painting that much easier, and you'll be able to maybe stay in the lines, that sort of thing. So I am getting to a point where I'm gearing up for just some detailed work, putting in a little bit more pencil, and at the end I'm going to grab my Sharpie pen again and really put in some detail of the stonework. Right here I'm just making the bottom part of the sky a little bit darker than the top part of the sky, and that'll create a really nice layer of color going from lights to darks. I'm basically trying to make it look like this cliff or these pillars are really high up in the air. I'm going to be putting in some leaf now. For landscape, you don't have to get bogged down in branches when it comes down to trees. You could just put in the colors. I started out with a really, really light green and layered a little bit thicker, and to make that dimension, because we all know that there's a variety of different colors of leaves out there, even on the same tree. Sometimes the back side of the leaf is a lighter color than the front side of the leaf or the top side of the leaf. So to layer that sort of color is just absolutely essential to create a three-dimensional feel. Right now, as I said, I'm going over some of my lines with my Sharpie. Make sure your paint is dry or your Sharpie will not work. So keep that in mind when you're going over some of your details. It is completely possible to do that. I usually put in a basic line at the beginning, layer some color, and then go back after the painting's dry and put even more darkness around the, say, branches, a little bit of the crooks and crevices of bark, and to make it look that much more three-dimensional. So I hope you really enjoyed this one. I know it's a longer video than usual, but it was a nice bigger project. So I usually, for my class of grade 8s, this is one of the last ones that they do in their portfolio. This is probably what, the 5th painting that they probably do, because it is a little bit harder than some. And before that, I did a video on waterfalls, and then pathways, and now suspension bridges. So I try to build up the difficulty level as I go along for this unit. Good luck, enjoy it, and obviously always keep safe and keep creating.